This video contains spoilers for the entirety of Honkai Star Rail up through 2.4, as well as discussion of potential upcoming storylines. I hope you enjoy. Congratulations and welcome to your first day as an employee of the Astral Peace Corporation. We're so glad you've joined us in our mission to bring the preservation of Qlipoth to new worlds and make the universe a better place. All for the Amber Lord. It's here! It's here! It's finally here! Hello, Internet people, and welcome to the long-anticipated IPC video. You guys have been patiently waiting since I first mentioned it in my Aventurine video like 4 months ago, and it's finally time. I'm sorry for the wait, but honestly, I can't really be too sorry because all the time you've waited has allowed me to fine-tune this theory to the max. This started as an angry rant about the IPC slapping the label preservation over a myriad selection of war crimes, but now, do I have some scalding hot tea for you. This goes beyond semantic cover-up. Turns out the IPC might actually be cheating on Qlipoth with another Aeon. Which one? You'll have to wait and find out. This has gone from space capitalism be capitalisming to cosmic scandal that spans everything from the Aeonic wars of the distant past to what may turn out to be the endgame of Star Rail in the not-so-distant future. This theory has it all, and I am here with all the receipts. Please watch to the end, and don't forget to put any thoughts you might have in the comments so we can talk about it. Now let's get into this monster of a theory about the real monsters of the Star Rail universe. So first, we need to introduce our main characters in this soap opera. Let's start with the IPC's first love, Qlipoth, the Aeon of Preservation. The Aeons are sort of like gods. Each of them represents and embodies a concept to an extreme degree, like a quantum supercomputer that represents knowledge, a melding of multiple complementary beings that represent harmony. You get the picture. Qlipoth represents preservation. His role is to preserve the universe and specifically civilization on a macro level. And the greatest threat to civilization currently is a race of leviathans that exist at the edge of the universe, so Qlipoth decided to build a barrier to keep the Nom Nom boys out. His job is wall, and until the wall is finished, he cares about nothing else. But as with most DIY projects, this one is taking a little longer than expected. Qlipoth has done nothing but wall for all of recorded history, taking exactly one break to stop a fight between a giant swarm of insects and a leviathan who managed to get past him. Because he cares about nothing but his wall, Qlipoth has also become synonymous with neutrality, which I guess kinda, but to me, calling him infamous for neutrality just feels like someone's mad at him for not being invested in a fight he doesn't even know is happening because he's too busy hyperfixating on his wall. We love an amber man with priorities. So this is where the IPC makes its entrance. As far as we know, when it was founded, it was a good or at least a neutral thing. A few people found out about the wall and decided they wanted to be adorable and help the guy out, so they loaded up a bunch of lumber, steel, nails, and screws and sent it off to him. Great. Small problem. Qlipoth won't even look at the stuff. It just sits there collecting space dust. Maybe he's not interested, maybe they brought him the wrong materials, maybe he can't see their ships because of how freaking humongous he is. Either way, he do not care. And as is the case with many children who have tasted the bitterness of rejection, instead of cutting their losses and moving on, the baby IPC doubles down. They start piling up the building supplies, bringing as much as they can from wherever they can, hoping that one day their Amber Lord will wake up and notice them. Spoiler alert, to this day, he has not. But while Qlipoth may be oblivious, the rest of the universe is not. Even though they got their start trading construction supplies, the IPC soon diversified, and by the time we meet them in Star Rail, they basically become the economy. They are the banking systems, they have an entire currency named after them, they provide internal and foreign defense for planets, while also acting as a shipping company for food, household items, annoying mechanical pets. Beep, beep, beep! Pretty much anything you could ever ask for. It's like Space Amazon, if Amazon were also the IRS. But this is where things take a turn, because, question, as an organization dedicated to serving Qlipoth, shouldn't the IPC's priorities somewhat align with his? Shouldn't they be, I don't know, preserving small-scale civilization, since Qlipoth is busy preserving capital C civilization? I think the answer is yes, but they don't seem to. I mean, they can technically claim to be doing humanitarian work if we define humanitarian very loosely, but the things they actually do on these worlds, boy. Let's quickly revisit the horrors, starting with Topaz's Belobog mission. Sometime before the eternal freeze set in on the planet, the architects of Belobog took out a loan from the IPC. A big one. They were set to repay it, but things got worse on the planet, and, well, let's just say there used to be more cities on Eurelo 6. The planet went silent, but fast forward 700 years and one Trailblaze mission later, and Belobog ain't so silent anymore. And the IPC's first thought is, not making sure the people there are okay after being missing in action for centuries, no, their first thought is how to get their money back. So they send Topaz, who basically says, hey, we know you just survived an ice age, but your check bounced, so now we're taking over the city. Nuh-uh, you can't do that. Listen here, you frostbitten Nepo baby. I can do what I want. The only thing up to you is whether this happens the easy way or the hard way. So kids, this is called bullying. This video would double in length if I itemized every questionable action Topaz takes here, but just hitting the highlights, she demands an unthinkable sum of money from a girl who just became Supreme Guardian and lost her mother only weeks before, and then rather than giving her space to focus on her decision, Topaz stirs up unrest in the Undercity by turning the automatons against the humans. Quick note, that's called destabilization, and it's an in-real-life strategy used to topple regimes and make new ones. That's not very preservation of you, Topaz. And then she has the nerve to say, hey, we'll wipe away your debt and make the planet not a snowball anymore. All you have to do is give us ownership of the planet and I'll become lifelong indentured servants of the IPC. I am viscerally remembering why I hated Topaz at first. A red flag factory could throw up, then explode red flags all over the place, and it would still be less red flags than this woman. Thank Aeons, Himiko stepped in and stopped Branya before it was too late. But Emma, I hear the IPC apologists say, Topaz is an exception. The rest of the IPC isn't like that. You're right, but you're wrong. Topaz is an exception, but she's actually known as the kind-hearted one in the IPC. Topaz is the stone of the heart, after all. For as brutal as her tactics are, her co-workers see her as not brutal enough. And while I can't exactly call her innocent, I do believe she has good intentions. I mean, just look at how fast she switched up and gave Belobog more time to pay off the debt after she learned her information was wrong. And most of her actions on Belobog were in the interest of making sure she could negotiate the best deal for the people there. She's just an ends justify means girly, but I can't say the same of her superiors. It would be awesome if the whole Belobog debacle was a one-off and the rest of the organization was still following preservation to their heart's content, but this is a pattern. Besides Belobog, we know Boot Hill's people were completely wiped out by the IPC in the name of bringing civilization to the world. Then there's Sigonia, where the IPC promised protection to two different tribes, then pitted them against each other until they were both wiped out. And last but not least, there's that time they Death Starred, let me just take a look at my notes here, 24 planets at once. I mean, let's just say it, the IPC doesn't care about preservation anymore, like at all. And it actually gets worse. The mission on Belobog took place weeks after the planet was personally aided by Klapoth in the battle against Kokolia, when they gave the Architect's lance to the Trailblazer, and the IPC treats them with not just indifference, but hostility. They are treating Klapoth's Chosen as the enemy. Something is wrong here, and after thinking it over, I'm pretty sure I know what's going on. We interrupt your regularly scheduled insanity to bring you Japanese snack boxes. This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and Sacuraco, and good grief, they stepped up their game this month. If you watched the sponsor spots in my last couple videos, you might have already noticed their boxes are different this month, and that's because we are moving into fall. These are the September boxes. The one I'm opening up right now is from Tokyo Treat, and their theme is Moonfest Snacktacular. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. These are super exciting, exclusive snack boxes with all kinds of fun-sized and fun-flavored snacks. One of the things I love most about these boxes is that it doesn't just give me fun new flavors and things I wouldn't have a chance to try otherwise, it also gives me an excuse to learn more about specific things in Japanese culture. For example, tsukimi. Tsukimi is what we'd call a moon festival, and they happen around the fall, so everything in these boxes is themed around the moon. There's caramel popcorn that's supposed to look like a golden full moon. There's a golden moon senbei, mini mochi candy, one of my favorite items. Also, I haven't talked enough about the Kit Kats. Each month's box from Tokyo Treat comes with a limited edition Kit Kat flavor. They are always incredible, and this month's was matcha flavored. Seriously amazing. Also, you may notice in this box and in the Sacuraco one, a lot of these items have rabbits on them, or are in the shape of rabbits, or there's rabbits on the packaging. That's because rabbits and the moon are closely associated with each other in Japan. In America, there are nursery rhymes about the man and the moon because of the shapes the craters make, but these shapes can also be interpreted as a rabbit. Sacuraco's theme this month is also centered around the moon. It's Autumn Moon Festival, and as always, they take a more artesian approach. Each of the Sacuraco boxes supports Japanese snack makers, and they contain an assortment of artesian snacks, a sample of teas, and a household item every month. And I've just got to take a second and show off this box for a second. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? I spent a little more time than usual in the booklet they sent with the box this month because they take time to tell you about all the traditions associated with the items in the box, some of the old stories around the moon and the Tsukimi festivals, and all of the information there is so interestingly fascinating. I may or may not have spent a couple hours in a Wikipedia article because I wanted to know more after the fact. The snacks this month were also just lovely. This Kokuto Konami Mochi was one of my favorite items. They're supposed to look a bit like the tsukimi dango that are eaten around the Moon Festival, and look at these little rabbits! These are called Usafi Hozui, and they were made by the Ashida Confectionery in Kyoto, which you can read all about in the booklet. These custard taiyaki were also amazing. And of course, I can't move on without telling you about the tea. This month we had Tsukimi Ryokucha, which is a green tea and was a perfect blend for a relaxing afternoon, trying new snacks, and thinking about the universe. And their household item this month was this beautiful rabbit and moon plate with Suzuki grass around them. I would have used it for the snacks, but it was just too pretty to use. I'm gonna get a little stand for it so I can tilt it up on a shelf and look at it. It's so pretty. Tokyo Treat and Sacuraco want people to be able to experience Japan from the comfort of their own home, and I for one can say, these boxes are incredible. I will definitely be subscribing past the sponsorship at some point, so even if you don't end up buying one, I highly encourage you to check out the website or maybe send it to a friend. Check out the links below, there's one for each box, and don't forget to use promo code MMA at checkout. I get a commission from each sale, and you get a little taste of Japan. And now back to the video. For all the horrible things they've done, the IPC wasn't always like this. So what changed? Well, here's the thing. We've actually seen this kind of extreme shift more than once in Star Rail. The second time was very recently on Penacony. In the beginning, it was an amazing place that celebrated harmony between different groups, resulting in a paradise where dreams became reality. But over time, the foundations of Penacony shifted until it became an inescapable prison only meant to control and sedate people with spectacle and hedonism. Sounds similar to what happened to the IPC? We also know that on Penacony, this didn't happen organically. It was a direct result of Enna, Aeon of Order, taking control and replacing Shippei the Harmony. I believe the same thing happened in the IPC. While they still claim to follow Klapoth, another Aeon has worked their way into the fabric of the corporation, maybe even by affecting Klapoth himself, causing a radical priority shift. And while we're not explicitly told who that Aeon is, we are told when the shift happened. And guess what? It was right after a major event in which Klapoth was a key player. I'm talking about the Swarm Disaster. The Swarm Disaster is one of the biggest calamities in the Star Rail universe, affecting 2/3 of the planets in the galaxy, some of them in ways that can still be seen to this day. It all started with Teiziroth, the insectoid Aeon of propagation who is capable of self-duplicating and creating a giant insect army from nothing, hence the name Swarm. Their only goal was to increase their numbers and spread the swarm to as many planets as possible, which they did. They caused so much destruction that they actually caused the birth of the Aeon of Destruction, Nanook himself. But they did eventually run into a roadblock in the form of the Aeon of Veracity, Ouroboros, aka Big Daddy Leviathan, who somehow got past Klapoth's wall with the singular goal of eating everything. Yes, everything. So yeah, Tazzy looked at Oro and said, must colonize, and Oro looked at Tazzy and said, yum, snacks. And thus the two battled for centuries. But given that one of them is the literal embodiment of creation and the other is the literal embodiment of consumption, this had the effect of an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, except with a lot more collateral damage. Neither of them could really gain any ground against each other, but they took out a massive portion of the galaxy while trying. Then one day, Ouroboros just vanished, gone, without a trace. There are theories that he ate himself, or that he might have finally had enough and just freaking vored the universe, and the entirety of Honkai Star Rail is happening in his stomach, which okay, fine, but also ew, I hate that. Anyway, after that, it took the combined efforts of multiple Aeons to wield a fly swatter big enough to take down the dang bug. It was Klapoth himself who was eventually able to defeat Teiziroth by literally ripping the concept of propagation out of them. I don't know, dude, apparently when you're an Aeon, you can just do things. But Teiziroth wasn't killed. Oh no, they were shattered into pieces, and then each of the pieces was encased in amber, to be imprisoned forever. We love us some bug humor. And then, immediately after, the IPC undergoes a massive reorganization which fundamentally changes how they do business. And they still operate under this structure to this day. The part that's most interesting to me in all this, though, is not just the timing, but the nature of the shift. Let's think about this. What are the priorities of the modern IPC, since we've already established that it's not preservation? After seeing them in action on Belobog, Herta Space Station, Penacony, even recently on the Xianzhou, and through the eyes of countless NPCs and readable items, if I had to boil it down to a sentence, I'd say their priority is to spread their influence to the far reaches of the galaxy and bring as many worlds under their control as possible, no matter how they affect the people already there. rare in the process. Sound familiar? Aside from the fact that it's much more calculated than Tasiranth, this is swarm behavior. And we know from watching how things played out in Penacony that Aeons leave a mark on their followers one way or another. The simplest explanation would be that the IPC is following Tasiranth disguised as Qlipoth, just like what happened with Enna and Xipe. But I have a theory. Outside the game, the name Qlipoth or Qlipoth has an interesting meaning in Jewish mysticism. The name means husk or shell, which could imply that Tasiranth pulled an Ennard and is now puppeteering Qlipoth around. But Qlipoth can also mean a corrupt or impure spirit. Listen to this from the Swarm Disaster Simulated Universe module. At that moment, an odd feeling strikes you, and you perceive a subtle sensation. The propagation is being diluted. The scene is a mind-blowing one. The suns are abnormal, as they are more in number and higher in temperature than normal. You discover that the giant hammer has conjured up a storm of rage. When Qlipoth killed Tasiranth, the stars around him began to multiply in intensity and numbers. Multiplication, a sometimes pseudonym for propagation. What if, when Qlipoth defeated Tasiranth by removing the concept of propagation from them, Qlipoth somehow absorbed it into their self, not integrating it with their self like we see with Enna and Xipe, but being corrupted by it. Qlipoth now has the concepts of both preservation and propagation attached to him. That would explain all the things that don't make sense about the IPC's operations, because they are a reflection of the Amber Lord they care so much about, and a bunch of other strange movements as well. It would explain the interest the IPC took in the simulated universe after the Swarm Disaster module, and their interest in Ruan Mei, who is famously trying to clone one of Tasiranth's emanators, Scaracabaz. We know from the masterpiece of storytelling that is 2.1 that one of the reasons the IPC worked with Kakavasha before he was Aventurine is he claimed to know the whereabouts of the Sand King's remains. The Sand King is another name for Tasiranth. The IPC is actively looking for the Swarm Aeon. What's crazier, I think they've already found him, or a part of him. As we know from our various escapades across the galaxy, particularly 1.5, where we met Argenti, the Swarm might not be big enough to wipe out planets anymore, but it is still very much active. That in itself doesn't mean terribly much, because as we saw with Argenti and Sunday and hey, even the Trailblazer, Pathstriders can still follow a path even after that path's Aeon has fallen. But there are other things. Whispers, hidden in the readables and in the implications of carelessly given information. Things which indicate not only that Tasiranth has the potential to rise again, but that it could happen at any moment, and maybe already has. A second Swarm Disaster is on the horizon, and the IPC is right at the epicenter. How do I know this? Let's go back to when we last saw Tasiranth trapped in Amber. Now bear with me for just a second. There's something to be said for how we're told information in Star Rail. Sometimes we see things with our own eyes, but when it comes to lore, more often than not, we're told things through the eyes of in-universe characters, which have been developed by the writers to hold their own perspectives, patterns, and biases. Meaning that depending on who's giving us the information and how they give it, even if they're not a history fictionologist, gosh, I hate those guys, it still might not be fully accurate, or at the very least, it might be misleading in some way. What I'm trying to say is, what if the Amber that Tasiranth is imprisoned in isn't technically Amber? We have two places in Star Rail where we're told Tasiranth is imprisoned in Amber. One of them is a readable called Glimpses of the Beyond, written by Fu Xuan, and the other is in the simulated universe where we're told the story by sort of AI versions of the Aeons who were there at the time. But the difficult part with this is, both Fu Xuan and the Aeons in question tend to use excessively flowery and metaphoric word choice when they speak, especially when they're telling a story. So what if the Amber isn't Amber? What if the wording there isn't meant to communicate anything about the material Tazi was encased in? What if all they're saying is that they were imprisoned using pieces of Qlipoth's body? And the moment I say pieces of Qlipoth's body, all kinds of alarms should start going off for anyone who pays attention to the lore. Because we already know the IPC has pieces of Qlipoth's body in their possession, 10 of them to be precise. What if Tasiranth is imprisoned in the 10 cornerstones? What if we've been lied to? What if Diamond didn't get them from Qlipoth directly, but instead the cornerstones were scattered across the galaxy to keep them from ever being reassembled? But now the IPC is looking to put their Aeon back together, and so are looking for any cornerstones they can get their hands on. Don't get me wrong, I don't think that everyone in the IPC knows about this. Most of them, and I'd even include Topaz in this, are just well-meaning grunts who say all for the Amber Lord and truly mean it, and are willing to go along with the questionable decisions from the higher-ups who know the truth because, well, sometimes preserving a civilization requires hard choices, right? Greater good and all that. But those highest on the food chain, Oswaldo Schneider, Diamond, maybe even Jade, they absolutely know about this, and they are hurtling hurtling the entire galaxy towards an extinction-level event. One swarm disaster was enough. What can people do against a second one, especially now that the person who won the war last time is no longer here to win again? Whenever Star Rail releases a new planet, everyone loses their minds, and rightfully so. New locations, new characters, a whole new chapter to this incredible drama unfolding before us. But take a step back and look at this theory again. Did you notice how about 2/3 of my evidence is drawn from the so-called filler patches? The Topaz Belobog mission, Ron May's swarm experiments, even the recent patch about the Borisan invasion all links back to the IPC being the new swarm. In fact, the only so-called filler patch that doesn't contain some kind of insane revelation about our potential big bad is the ghost hunt. My guess is that as fun and informative as the planet patches are, the real story is happening in between, hiding just underneath the surface like insects in a cave, waiting for the moment to reveal itself. Hey guys, thank you so much for sticking around for another video. This one was incredible to make. I have had this theory buzzing around in my head, pun intended, for literal months now, and I am so excited to finally get to tell you guys about it. Once again, if you had any thoughts, don't forget to put them down in the comments below, and if you want more content like this, consider subscribing. I put roughly one video out a month, and I have more shorts that I'm getting ready for you guys, with fun little flash theories is what I'm calling them. And if you liked this one, I'm sure you'll love those. Things about Idrilla, connections between the different Hoyoverse games. I have one about Aventurine's connection to Aha that I'm really proud of, so please subscribe if you want those to pop up on your feed in the future. Also, Editing Emma here. Guys, please go check out Tokyo Treat and Sacuraco. They have been amazing. The boxes are amazing. You must go check out these boxes. The links to the boxes are in the description and the pinned comment, and don't forget to use promo code MMA at checkout. But whether you subscribe or like or comment or not, thank you so much for watching this video. You guys are incredible. I cannot believe how much this channel has taken off, and I look forward to seeing you guys next month. Until then, stay safe and stay kind. And don't let the swarm bugs bite!